track, right? All these notes, I'm going to talk out everything, and then essentially I'm going to push all this code up. So as I talk through, you'll hopefully remember like my awful sounding voice, but more importantly, what it is that I say about it. All right? I'll like add some additional notes if I need to, or if you feel like I need to, just be like, oh, hey, Evans, can you just jot that in there? So we read through the active record labs, right? So we're going to learn a little bit more about how to use it, specifically in depth, the workflow, right? Migrations, what are they? Methods from active record, right? So I'm just going to poll the audience real quick. I'm just going to build it from scratch, right? So you can see everything start to finish. It's more fun that way. So I can build anything you want as long as it's a many-to-many relationship, since that is ultimately kind of what we're looking at, what we're looking for. Or I could just do a simple has many and a belongs to, like a one-to-many relationship, and then we'll just make something up for the many-to-many. I'm just banging it on the fly. Or I could just do, you know, our all-time fave, tree, squirrels, and nests. It's completely up to you, but I need you on this. What's up? What do we want to do? Dr. Patient? So fun. So fun. Are you cool with that, Dr. Patient? All right, I got 3 votes to 0.
Squirrel.
I got vetoed.
Right? How many squirrels?
Squirrels, nest, trees.
Anyone want to do songs?
Songs, albums, genres?
Yeah, anyone?
Nah, chill out with that. That's a lab already.
It's not a supply chain. Manufacturers, distributors, retailers.
Ooh. That one sounds interesting. So, is everyone cool with that? Manufacturers, distributors, and what?
Retailers.
And retailers. Explain to me and everyone else in a loud and thunderous voice what that relationship looks like.
Manufacturer would have many products.
All right, let me just, do you want me to draw it out for you in this awesome web app? You guys want to see the awesome web app? What is it? Awesome web app. Hopefully that's it, and not like a crazy website I went to. All right, nice. I'm nervous. What the? Does that not work? All right. Command Control K. It doesn't matter. All right, go for it, Brian. What's up? Talk to me, Goose.
So the manufacturer, and I don't know if this would be overly complicated, but the manufacturer could have both many products and many distributors.
A manufacturer can have many products. So which one's the join?
The joint would be the distributor.
The distributor.
Between manufacturer and retailer.
All right, distributor. And then this is the retailer? Talk to me.
So a manufacturer would have many products that go to a distributor.
A manufacturer has many products that go to a distributor, right?
A retailer buys many products from a distributor.
Okay. And many manufacturers can have many retailers. And many retailers can have many manufacturers. I follow what you're saying. I have no issues with it. Who wants to build this? It's the same 3 people that wants to build everything. What, for those that didn't vote, what do you want to build? Stop playing. Eric, I've never heard from you. Eric, what are we building? Eric, stop whispering. Come on, man. Just me and you. What are we building? Oh, we're building Eric, yes. Very good. What are we building? I shot myself in the foot in that one. We are building drivers and passengers and riders. All right, is that cool? Everyone understand this relationship? I'm gonna refresh this. Come on, Eric. All right, but I'm a man of my word. So this is the driver.
You
all right?
recording?
Yes.
Oh, okay. You know, if you do enough squirrels and trees, you could eventually just like sell this like a coding course.
Or I can work for a Flatiron school and do a great job on my teaching.
This is really great. I'm just telling you, it's so basic.
They're laughing because it's true. Driver, what's the relationship, Eric? Passenger is the what? Oh, okay. Killing me, Goose. All right. Killing me, Smalls. So drivers, right, can have a lot of passengers, right, and passengers can have a lot of drivers, right, and this is the join table, right. This is the driver passenger table, but it just makes more sense in English to call it rider, right, or the ride, right, the ride table. That's how the driver knows the passenger through the ride, right? All right, cool. So let's do this. I really like that one. There becomes a lot more that we can get into, and it possibly will scale confusingly, but it is a good relationship. I just wanted to make sure you were cool. All right. So driver, right? What's the relationship between driver and rider?
The driver needs the ride to pick up the passenger.
Yeah, let's just take passenger out real quick. What is the relationship with driver and ride? Not rider, ride. That's E. Ride has one driver, and the driver has many rides? Cool. And then let's take driver out of it. And we got passenger and ride. What's the relationship? Yes, passenger has many rides, right? And then this one ride belongs to this particular passenger, right? So if you really think about it, this is a one-to-many here, and this is a one-to-many here, which gives us the many-to-many here. Did that like unlock some doors for you? It's all right. Y'all already tracking? Cool. So let's build this out. Now, active record. How do we it's late. How do we use it? What is active record? I see some Googling happening. Cool. Active record is just a great ORM, right? Which is a what? Oh, cool. It's not up there now. It's an object relational mapper, right? It's just going to take whatever you have in your database, right? And it's going to allow you to map each row of the database to an instance of a class, to an object that you have in Ruby, right? So in the same way that I did the tweets, right? And I manually hard-coded all the tweets from the select star from tweets class, and then I plucked each one of those rows, and then I made a new tweet instance with the data from it. That's the ORM, right? So active record instead is going to give you all this auto magic, right? So you can auto-magically do all of that. You don't have to hard code all of those relations, right? So like in Ruby, you don't have to write any of that anymore to pull it directly from a SQL command, right? Do you remember the here docs, like SQL equals, and then the here docs select star from, then you pass it into a tweet.new, and then it runs SQL, and then the params that you pass in? Okay, so now we're not going to do that anymore, because that's, if you notice, there's a pattern to it, right? Update's always going to be the same, right? And then the create's always going to be the same, right? The read's always going to be the same. And the destroy will always be the same. So if we know it's always kind of going to be the same, we can kind of create like a pattern, right? And a brilliant individuals, many individuals, have come up with something called active record that will do all that automagic for us. So the first thing we need to see is, I talked a lot about what do I do when I first see code I've never seen before. What do I do? Go through the file. I'm going to Google code. I'm going to go through the file structure, right? So I understand how all my code is connected. So the first thing is, I'm sorry you can't see this, but first thing is like there's this app folder, right? Hold on, I did something. Oh, yes, right? Sorry, that was just really exciting for me. So app, right? And in this app folder, you have models, right? Let's see what's in there. Oh, wait, nothing. Don't worry about what this keep is. I'll explain later. What's config here? It's just an environment file, and all it does is it requires bundler, right? And then this, we've kind of seen something similar though, right? Before it was kind of like, what do we see? DB equals to like a hash, and then in there was like dbcon, something like that,
Yeah.
right? So you can get rid of all that. Boop, 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 boop. Now instead, our database will now be done with active record base. We've seen this syntax before, right? This looks like probably some sort of module, right? Base is some sort of class, like namespace inside of active record, and then we're calling a method establish connection on the base class, and it's taking these params, right, as a hash. Adapter is going to point to SQLite 3, and the database is going to go to this database folder, development SQLite file. So far, so good? Active Array space logger. It does something called logger.new. It makes a new log instance. So logger must be what? A class, right? It's initializing with whatever standard output is. I will explain what this is during the code, but if I didn't know what it was, I can always go to who? It's a phone call away, right? Google. And then I'm requiring everything in app. I have a gem file, right? This looks new. So I'm taking an active record, and specifically I'm taking it from a framework called Sinatra. We're going to learn more about Sinatra in Mod 2, so don't worry about that too much. Just understand this is going to give you active record, and specifically I'm going to take it from Sinatra's active record, because Rails has a different active record. They kind of have little differences to them. This is just a lighter framework. It has what we need to teach you. Check. Cool. We have Rake, our friend, require all his money. This is our database, and of course, my best friend, Pry, right? Gem file lock, don't worry about that. Let's just get rid of that loop. So that gem file lock doesn't really exist yet. It exists after what? Gem file lock exists after you bundle install, because that is what locks in all of your versions once you execute the bundle command, right? Talked a little bit about that. Rake file, cool. I have everything in my config, which gives me everything because everything is required already in my config file, right? And then I'm also requiring Sinatra's active record rake tasks. So remember when I ran rake t last time, I just got like nothing? All right, what did I get? Oh, I think I'm zoomed in still, right? Yeah. What is rake t again? Yes, it gives me all the rake tasks that I have. So I should see console. Except I see all of these cool high-speed commands. Rake console is the one I made, and it's right here. Right? Do you remember when I made bork? Bork, bork, bork? It was there? Yeah, except this time now I have all of these high-speed rake tasks, and they're coming from here. All right, so don't be scared. Don't be confused. Let's take a look at what they are. Oops. I have a create migration. I can drop, I can roll back, I can seed, right? I can check the version. If you don't know what these tasks do, we're only going to go over a few today, right? Create migration, a little bit of drop action, migrate, rollback. That's really about it, right? The other ones you can kind of Google and find out what they do. Also in the description, if you want to like open up your terminal. I got to run it again. It'll tell me. It'll tell me what these are. A short little description on it. And that description comes from where I actually describe it in here. So how task console has a description, and then it tells me it just starts up the console. Everyone cool so far? All right. And now I'm just going to head right back into the README. So I went over the file structure, right? I wrote all these notes out so I wouldn't have to do it during lecture, but is everyone tracking so far what every line of the command does so far? So we're not going to get too crazy. As you start building out larger and larger apps, the structure is going to be pretty similar. All right? Tasks. Rake tasks. Just calls all tasks. Great question. All right, cool beans. So next thing is, all right, we want to create our first, actually we should create our first migration. I'll just ignore this. Bloop. All right. So what do we know about rake, right? What is a migration? Can we go over that? Anybody? Tristram, I haven't heard from you. What's migration? You want to try?
I would guess it's when we're migrating rows of data from
Very close. Anyone else? This is the time to test your understanding, right? Like, as you say it out loud, you gotta try to word it. Because then as you say it out loud, as you word it, that solidifies your own understanding. You know, this is a great time now to see whether or not you understand. And if you don't, I mean, I'm about to tell you in like 1 minute. You know what I mean? No harm, no foul.
So it saves the changes that are made to a database
It what?
It kind of like writes the changes that are made to the database back to the database file.
It writes the changes that you make to the database back to the database file. Yes. Right? So what I like to do is when I define things, I like to define them in my own words so that they just make sense to me. And they don't have to be like sexy words, you know? Like the definition that I'm going to give you is it's just a piece of Ruby, like Ruby code that creates data in your database. Right? And we're going to see that right here. So if we look back, right, we have what? Create migration as one of the rate tasks. So let's just try and see what it is. This, by the way, is one of the best messages I've ever seen written in code. So when I run db create migration, what happens? It says no name specified. This error message is so clutch. Example usage, rake db migrate creation, name, oh man, this is awful. Name create users. It seems to tell me exactly what I need to do, so let's do that. So name, and what were we trying to make again? We're trying to create what? Eric. What's a model, what's a Ruby class that we want? Or a table, rather. A table. Migrations are tables, right? What table do we want? It's multiple choice, man. You got passenger, you got driver, and you have ride. Driver, cool. Let's make driver. Look at this name spacing, right? It's so important. Create users, right? So should I put driver or drivers?
Should we not have a
Well, this backtick just indicates like this is the block of code.
okay.
Very good question, right? So I'm just going to create the drivers, right? Boom. And right now, to simplify, all I want to do is start with my first one-to-many relationship, right? So I can either just go with drivers and ride or passenger and ride. So we pick drivers. So what's the next table? All right. But what does that sound like in plural? Rides, right? So this is the rides table, right? So I'm just gonna create these migrations. Look what it does, right? In this DB folder, right? In the migrate folder, it's gonna create this bizarre file name called create drivers, and it's gonna be a Ruby file. So let's take a look at it. In my DB, in my migrate, let's just boom this up. Bam! All right, DB migrate. I see this bizarre file name, and I open it, and it gives me this. Okay, just kidding, just kidding. There we go. All right, it starts it for me, right? Create drivers, and it inherits from something called active record migration. 5.2 is just the version. So if that looks a little different on your system, don't worry about it. It's not a big deal. You should be on 5, 5.1, 5.2.
What if there's no like plural name, like fish?
If there's no plural name,
Like, would it know?
would it know? Sometimes, right? So there's a method in Ruby, I think it's in Ruby, like it's called singularize and pluralize.
I think just Rails.
Oh, and just Rails?
Yeah,
Does active record have it?
not sure.
I think active record have it.
Look for that S then to see if it's plural.
That doesn't work for everything. For example, like I wouldn't go make a table called gooses, right? I would be geese. So active record will know most words and their unique pluralizations. If you have in your file a unique case, right, where it doesn't want to singularize or pluralize in a certain way, just come see one of us, right, and then we'll jam it out. But like one of the weird ones I know for a fact is in Rails, like if you want to create a table called like, if you want to, yeah, like doves or something, it'll do dof, like D-O-F-E. I've tested it. I know that's what it does. It's wrong, but that's what it wants to do. And what Anne is trying to get at is this. Long are the days where I can name anything I want, exactly anything I want, right? So because of the auto magic, right, it's going to work on a pattern. So if I have a class called create drivers, I'm going to be looking for something called what? A table called what?
Create drivers.
Drivers, right? If I have a migration called create drivers, that migration is saying, hey, heads up, I'm going to create a table. That table name is drivers. And we'll break it so you can see it. So first thing I want to do is I want to create this table. All right? This is just syntax you're going to wind up memorizing because you type it so much. Or you can hit up my boy Google. Google will tell you, right? Oh yeah, don't memorize, because obviously, yeah, cool. And what's this table name? Cool. And what do we want to do with this table? We want to create different tables, right? You're going to see this weird, interesting syntax. So what have we seen this before? This do with a block, right? It's normally T, but I'll break it down. We'll call it table, right? So here, it looks like create table, right? It's taking some sort of parameters of drivers. It's going to iterate through, and it's going to do something with each of these tables, right? And in this table, it's going to do what? It's going to call something that it knows, right? Like, what's the first thing? What's the attribute in our drivers? Like a name? So this is basically what it looks like. And if you ever mix it up and you're like, oh, in the table I want to put name, and then that's going to be a string, right? Let's take this through. Name is going to be like my custom attribute, right? I'm going to be able to name it. So like if I had like a spiders table, right? I put legs, right? Legs is like the thing that I made up, right? For my particular table. Everyone following so far? This table, right, is like the table instance, if you want to follow along. And I'm calling table.myCustomMethodName. Is Active Record's great, but do you think Active Record is going to have every single one of these custom attributes built in there? No. It's probably going to just have what? The basic ones, right? Like integer, right? String, right? Like array, something like that. So you remember, you're always calling it kind of like on the instance. Just like a pro tip, if that helped you, great. If not, just look up the syntax. It'll break it down for you, right? And this is going to be the attribute name. Everyone follow me so far? And then I'll get to you, Brian. No, Young, you're first up.
So the workflow is you start with the console in order to generate those files. You don't duplicate and do like 001 underscore.
I'll explain that in 2 seconds. Man, I got serious.
So just to make clear, the first thing that's created is the database.
The first thing that's created is the migration. The database does not exist. All I'm doing right now is I'm writing the Ruby file that's going to make my database. That's what the migration does, right? It's just a piece of Ruby code that's going to map my driver's class, the objects in my driver's class, into like rows in my SQLite database. All right, it will make more sense, I promise you, as we finish and continue to go through. All right, Young brings up a good point. So for those that don't know, I kind of skipped over this. It's gonna go over it later, but this right here, these crazy bizarre numbers, actually, it's just a timestamp, right? It's 2018. It's July 25th, 20943. That's probably like what second it is, all right? I can't remember the exact naming convention, but it's like the date and some sort of timestamp. And the reason it's created like that is because Which one did I make first, drivers or rides? I made drivers first. So in order to always make sure that all my migrations are are executed in the exact order that I created them, they drop a timestamp. Right? So if you ever see something like, I could just rename this file, right? Oh man, this is blowing up on me. Like instead of like these wild crazy numbers, and you see like 001, and then the next one 002, 003, it's because we've made them as instructors in like your future labs just to make sure that those migrations run in that order. All right, we just like handmade them, right? That's bad practice. It's only really good for kind of like testing. Always create your migrations with the rake tasks. Always create your migrations with the rake tasks. All right? So it's designed to be in order because what happens? What's my next table? Yes, passengers, right? My next table is going to be passengers. Once I start associating things, and you'll see this here, right? I gave this example with the squirrels and the trees, right? If I use and create a new tree, a new nest, which is the join table, and I don't have the squirrel in the tree, what will happen to that nest if I try to create it without a squirrel or a tree? It'll blow up. It'll break because I need this. The nest needs to know about the squirrel. The nest needs to know about the tree. All right? If I don't have both of them, it'll break. All right? So I always want to make sure my migrations are done in like the correct order. All right? So let's continue. Is everything cool so far? So this driver just has a name. All right? Between the association between drivers and rides, which one has the foreign key? Rides has the foreign key, right? All right, cool. So do I need to add anything else to this? Nah, chill. But before I do anything else, I want to test, right? So I just created the migration. Now I have to actually run it, Ryan, to create the database. It's actually going to execute this, make my drivers table, and put an attribute of name in there. And the name is going to be a string. So let's do it. It does. Good shout. All right, ready? So rake what? Help me out here. Which one will migrate? Migrate, very good. So what it did was it created this table, right? Oh, yeah, it created this table, drivers, right? It migrated, and then it created rides, and it migrated. But the problem is rides has nothing in it. Something else gets created in the meantime, a database file, right? That should look familiar because obviously you can't read it, but you know that this is where your data lives, right? And the schema file. I know that a few of you asked me, how do I see all of my tables like drawn out? Like remember when I drew it out, like just manually drew it out for you with the squirrels and the trees and the nests? Okay, this is it. It's going to draw it out for you. It's going to tell you exactly what the table name is, right, and what the columns you have in there. This version determines which migration is the last one I ran. So if I make more migrations from here, right, and I want to see, hey, where is my schema currently? Where's my database currently, right? Which is the last migration I ran? I'm going to look at this version, and I'm going to match it up to the number here. Everyone following so far? That's what those numbers are. Cool.
But if you like migrate something, will that version then like?
It will update the version,
update
yeah.
itself?
Yes.
This is a function of the IDE or something.
No, this is active record magic. Now, if I run migrations again, oops, sorry. If I run migrations again, I'm going to see nothing. All right, so this is just kind of like a common error. When you run migrate and you're expecting to see something and nothing comes up, It's because you're on the latest version. Like all your migrations ran already. The problem is I have nothing in here and I want to go back, right? It is not a good idea to update the file after it migrated because those migrations are never going to happen. Ruby is going to look at this and it's going to be like, cool, bet, I ran this migration already, right? And if I make changes to this, right, like create table and I do rides, I make changes to this, I save. If I were to run migrate, it's never going to hit that file because the schema says that that migration already ran. Does that make sense? It'll just be like, oh, I ran you already. Oh, but I have changes. Ran you already. And it's going to ignore it. That's what it's going to do. It's a real jerk. All right? So I don't want to make any changes, right? In order for me to actually be like, oh, you know what? I probably need to go back and update something, right? I need to bring it back, one hop this time, right? I can, in fact, roll back. And what rollback is going to do is it's going to basically unmigrate the last migration I ran. So when I roll back, it's going to revert rides, right? That's the last migration that I ran here. All right, if I roll back one more time, actually, let's take a look at the schema. See, drivers is still there because it rolled back one.
So you can't do multiple migrate?
You can. You can, oh, when you run migrate, it's going to run all of them. All of them that exist. Rollback will pull you back one at a time. There are special params you can put into rollback that you can tell it how many to roll back to or how many to roll back. All right? I'll let you Google that magic. So it reverted, meaning if I look at my schema, version 0, there's actually nothing in there. All right? So I actually probably create this table now. Everyone following so far? Cool. So we're doing rides here, do, all right, table block, T for, it's going to be a string. And then what do rides have? Oh, this is actually what, an integer, I think? All right, and this is going to be what, driver ID? Yeah? I'm sorry, what did I create? I created drivers first. Right now, passenger doesn't exist. Just worry about the driver, right? You want the driver name in the rides table? I'm not going to allow you to logic that out, no. I'm not putting the driver's name in my rides table because a driver's name is not an attribute of a ride. Okay, cool.
So it's just passenger.
What? We're just focused on drivers and rides right now. All right, so what do I need to do now?
Migrate.
Everyone agree? Cool. Oh, I forgot my dues. My end. All right. What's the error that I should be getting? All right. Cool. That's how I knew, by the way. So I created the rides table. Boom. Check out that schema. So I have drivers with the name and rides with the driver ID. All right. So far, so good?
Yes.
Cool. All right. Boop, boop, boop. Any questions on schema, what version it is, and what this means? No? All right, so now that we have the table that exists, what do we need? What does this actually relate to? If I have a row in SQL and I want to map that object to Ruby, what do I need?
Class.
Yes, I need a Ruby class, right? And what did I call those Ruby classes? Yep. But I call them models, right? I know it's a little bit tough. They're called models, right? Anytime you have like a class in Ruby that relates to like your database, they're called models. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna do them the fancy way. I'm gonna touch them. right? I know I'm in app. I know they're in models. And what do we have here? What classes? Okay, what else? A rider, right? Like a ride, right? So very important convention here, right? That makes a lot of sense. I'm gonna have class. Which one is this? It's the keep file. Embarrassing. This is the driver, right? Class driver, and that's gonna inherit from. This is just something. Base. No. Base. Bum. All right, cool. So what this is this is the class driver. What's the related table? What's the related table name? Drivers, right? So remember I was all like, you just name everything willy-nilly? But now, because of the pattern, right, it needs to be looking for the class that matches the driver class, right? The table's drivers needs to be looking for the driver class, right? And that's just how the auto magic works. So with driver, right? And it makes sense. Like, why would I put drivers as a class? Because then when I do it, I'm going to put drivers.new. I'm going to instantiate multiple drivers at once, or I'm making one at a time. Come on, I know it's late. I need your help. The more you participate, the faster it's going to go, I swear. Right? One at a time, so it'll be driver, right? Driver.new. So in case you were curious. Cool. So what happens here, right? In this driver class. What am I trying to do? I'm trying to create some sort of association with them. That make sense? So if I were to go driver, tell me about your rides, how would I do it? I can just make a method, right? What's it going to do? It's going to ask what? Right? Inherits from. Right, so now my ride class exists, right? I can ask what? Ride.all, right? What? I could select them all, I guess, right? And then what? Do I have like some sort of ride, and then if that ride dot ID equals to what? Self dot what? I'm gonna have some sort of rider in here, right? Something like that? Hold on. The reason this code doesn't make sense is because it's just to kind of like explain to you conceptually what's happening here, right? This doesn't actually have like a ride ID, right? Matches like what, self.id, something like that? I really don't know if this code will work, but the bottom line is, like, I can then go driver.rides, and it's going to give me like all the rides where like I am the driver. Yeah? I mean, active record gives you like all these amazing methods, so I'm just going to comment this out. I don't know if it works, but let's test. So what do we have here, right? We have rake console. Let's see if driver exists. Money. Driver exists, right? So I have no methods in my driver class right now, right? So what should I expect to see when I call driver.method? I should get all the active record base methods, right? That's a lot of them. Let's find out how many. Damn. That's a lot of auto magic right there. A lot of auto magic, right? So one of the cool methods, right, that exists is this method called find, right? So I can call the ride. I can just find only the ID where it's like the ride.id. And that'll give me the ride. Did I lose anybody? Sure. One of the cool auto magic things that Active Record gives you is something called find. Right? Find works in a very similar way to like the array find. And that'll just return the first one, and then all you have to do is feed it an ID. So I'm asking ride, find the ride where it's like you're the one ride. Like I'm just asking for you. So like Active Record will give you even more sweet goodness. All right, let's check it out. I say a lot of things like belongs to and has many. Wouldn't it be nice if I could just say driver has many rides? That'd be so money. So money. All right, let's find out. Do you understand what this like relationship is doing? I'm just saying that this driver has many rides. That's the relationship that we established earlier, right? One to many. Cool. This will only work if I can get out of pride. Break console, right? If I actually have like drivers, right? So I can put driver.create, which is what? Probably coming from sweet Active Record. And what did I need to feed it? What's the attribute of a driver? And who's the driver here? Reginald? I don't know, I feel like Reginald's like a driver name, right? Like I'm like rich and fancy in my like mansion. I've got a yacht somewhere. I'm like, oh, Reginald, pull the Rolls Royce around. Cool. We got Reginald. That's cool. All right. What else we got? Who else? Bob the driver. Very classy. Right. And what do we need for ride? Just a driver ID. And what do we say? Just one. So Reginald is like one ride. So if I call driver.first, which is another Active Record thing, it's going to give me the first one. I can even do driver.all. Boom. Whoa, those methods are all built in. Money. So I have my first one, right? Can I call rides? What's that? Let me make another ride. Right? Another one with driver ID 1. So now I have 2 rides, and Reginald did both. So if I were to call driver.first, which is Reginald, and I ask for the rides that Reginald did, it's going to give me both. Because of this association right here. If I were to go to ride.all, what do I get? All the rides. I can call, what, second maybe? Oh, that's a cool one. All right, so now I'm on that instance, and I can call who is the driver. Can I call this? I should be able to, but I can't. Why? Because in my ride class, I don't have a method, right? So this method that I wrote, this earlier doo-doo method, right? That's what I was trying to recreate, which is what like has many does. Remember like adder accessor, right? It literally writes like a getter and a setter method for you, right? It's syntactical sugar, right? So that's what that's doing. Just so you understand what's happening under the hood. Following so far? That was like a lot to take in. All right, so this is just syntactical sugar, very similar to adder accessor, where it writes a getter and setter. This has many rides. It's just writing a method called rides that returns all of the rides associated with this driver. All right, a lot of the stuff that you've been writing in OO, where it's like, hey, find me all the X, right? And then you do like a dot select, and then you do and where the select, where that ID is the ID I'm looking for, or whatever it is, and then it gives you all of them back. That's what it's doing, except it looks so much easier this way, and it's way more readable.
So if also Google more information about has many, what would you call it? Like an attribute
Mm-hmm.
So what do you call that? It would be
I would put active record has many.
use that to memorize.
You do the same thing for rides, right? Basically.
Rides has many drivers?
No, excuse me, because that's our joint. That's
Belongs to what? Drivers or driver? Driver, right? The ride belongs to a driver, right? But the driver has many rides, right? It just reads like good English, right? Which is why that singular plural like makes a lot of sense. So now I got to bang out of this pry. I'm gonna get right back into it. And look, remember when I was like telling you like, oh, what's that problem I was having about data persisting? That once I leave the pry, it's gone. But now it's in my database. So I banged out a pry, came right back, and my data's still there, right? So I can do ride.first, right, which is just like a active record thing that gets me the first object, right? So now I'm actually in this object. I could tell because if I call the class, it's the ride class. This is an object of ride. Versus ride.all, it's an active record relation, right? So if you start making this little rookie error, ride.all, and then like some method name, and it doesn't work and it breaks, it's probably because you're calling it on like all of them when you should be calling it on the one, on the actual instance. Instance methods get called on instances. Check? Cool. So what did I want to test, right? I wanted to test to see if a rider has a driver. And there it is, Reginald. And that is the magic of that relationship. Any questions? Comments? All right, we're gonna wrap up the many to many. So why don't you guys take like a 5-minute break? I see you're hurting. One to many, right? We did that. Has many, belongs to. We made that first one. Now we need to finish the loop, right? So we have driver, we have ride, and we need to make the last one. What is the last one? Passengers, great. How do we do that? If I forgot how to do it, what do I put in? Absolutely nothing. And it'll tell me best thing ever, right? And what do I want to name this? Just passengers? Cool. All right, make sure you don't forget the S, yeah? Tables, plural, class, model, singular. So, all right, cool. The migration is there, all right? Here we can check it. Is it in my schema? Right? No, because I haven't run the migration yet, right? So boom, what do I need in here? I'm so lazy. I'm so lazy. I'm so lazy. You already know. Cool, right? And what does passengers need? Right? They probably just have a name, right? Weirdos like me and you take Lyft all the time. Just regular old name. Cool? All right. So that means that if I were to do rake console, can I do passengers?
Yes.
Why yes?
Because we have we migrated the table.
Definitely did not.
Okay.
All right, so we don't have the migration. The migration hasn't ran. And more specifically, did I create the model? Right, so this class is going to be completely uninitialized. All right, cool. So what do I need to do now that that migration is good? Yes, let's migrate. So the migration, just that piece of code that's going to map it to the database. I actually have to go tell it, now go map it, right? In the same way that I can define a method, right? I have to call it when I want it, right? I'm just defining that migration. I created it, but now I need to run it, right? I need to call the method. So let's do that. And what do we see here? Passenger table. So in my schema, I should see my schema, I should see what? Boom, right? So I got drivers, passengers, and rides. But it looks like I need something else on my join table now, right? What do I need? I need the passenger ID because the ride knows about the drivers and the passengers, right? So should I just go into this thing and just be like, hey, yeah, I'm just going to go in and jam it out? Why no?
It's gonna see it's already migrated, not moved yet.
Yes, Ruby's got an attitude. It's going to be like, yo, I told you I migrated already, so we're done here, right? It's going to completely ignore it. So what do I need to do? I need to add a column to this table, right? So I need to actually create a new migration for that, right? So let's do that. How would I do that? Oh, whoa, what a cool diagram. So let's just do active record, add column. I looked it up already, so I forgot how to write it. What's this? Boom. I think I'm just going to search for add column. All right, so look. In this migration, right, it just says add column, right? Look at this class, right? This is like the name of what I'm going to create the migration. I need to add part number to this products table. So I have the table, I have what I want to add, and I have what I want it to be, right? So cool. Let's copy that. Oops. All right. So now I'm just thinking I need to make a new migration. So rake db create migration, and the name is going to be what? Add, right? Passenger ID to which one? Ride? Don't worry about all my camel casing here. I'm just being lazy. If you wanted to see the correct casing, it looks like this. It's like capital, 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 capital. All right? You know what? Let's do the right thing. Let's do the right thing. Happy? Is everyone happy? You guys are bullies. All right, cool. Boom, right? Now I have this migration file. So let's take a look at it. Bloop. And what did it look like? Looked like, oh, so lazy. Look like this. Boom. So I need to add a what? What table is this? Yep, very good. And what's this? What do I want to add? And is it a string? Cool. So what should I do now? Now that I've just created the migration. What the? Only lowercase numbers and letters allowed. Illegal name. Ah. Only lowercase. Oh, looks like I have to. Interesting. So, what I should do is, because this is all jacked up, I'd have to rename this file and I'd have to like change this up. But instead, I'm just gonna blow it away. If I roll back, what would happen?
You have to roll back a few times, right? Because you just added a...
This migration never ran.
Oh.
Yeah. So if I roll back, I will lose passenger. Yes. So instead, we're going to definitely start over and do this. Add passenger ID to ride. Cool. I learned something.
Does it really matter what you name that, or is that just for record's sake?
This is for record's sake because if you can imagine, at some point, you're going to have 40, 50, 60, 70 migrations. And someone's going to be like, when did you add that? And just like, oh, let me just search all my files. And then in that file, it's like, oh, I added this column to this table. And it's just easier. If you always name it the same way in the same convention, it's easier to find stuff, like when you add it or change something.
Does it record record the robots?
What?
Like, so if you
What? Does it record the rollbacks? What doesn't record the rollbacks? Cool. All right. So now my schema, I'm going to see this. All right. And the reason I said it's so important in terms of like your order, right? If I rolled all the way back, right? Like my database has a couple things in it, right? So you don't want to do this, but I can just delete it and it'll just blow my database away and then I just create new files if I wanted to, right? Don't do that in production. It's a bad idea. The schema, did you notice how like the schema just auto-updated? I never really touched it. This is like your single source of truth for what your schema looks like at any given moment. All right, I can just blow this away if I wanted to, and then when I run migrate, it'll just pop right back up. All right, so in case you accidentally lose schema, just run migrate and come right back.
Is that auto because it's just pulling the schema that SQL creates automatically?
Yes, yeah, that's where it's populating from. So the point I was trying to make was, let's say this timestamp, right? I'm adding a column to the rides table. If I'm out of order, right, and rides is here, if for whatever reason I move the file below, right, and this one up, that means it's gonna this is gonna try to add a passenger ID to a table that does not exist. Did that make sense? Raise your hand if that made sense. I'm gonna say it one more time. If in the rides table, I'm gonna create it, that's the second migration. If I change the name of this file and the timestamp, or I moved it down, right, and I move this add column up, right, it's going to try to add a column to rides table, but if rides is down here, the rides table has never hit the migration, will not exist, and it'll error out. That's why all your migrations need to be in a very particular order, which is why you don't ever want to edit the migrations. If you make a boo-boo, create new migration, and you fix that boo-boo. You know what I'm saying? And the way to fix it is you just Google active record, like change column name, and then just like how I did, I showed you the Google, you'll just find it in there and you'll write the syntax for it. Yep, teaching you how to learn. Check. Cool. So now that I have that, right, what else do I need now? Got my migrations, everything's cool. I can call passenger now, right? Can I call passenger in the rate console? I can? Let's find out. Only one way to find out. I got a test. Where can I initialize the constant passenger? Right? I have my migrations. They ran. The database is there. So the SQL side is done. What else do I need? What else do I need? Cool. I'm going to do it the not old school way. Ready? What is this? Cool. Ah, lost some of my functionality. All right, passenger, right? Cool. And passenger what? This is an interesting relationship, right? So I have a driver, right, has many rides, and a passenger, I'm sorry, and the ride belongs to a driver. What else does the ride belong to? All right, cool. Nice. Oops, that's not going to work. All right. And then what about passenger? Is it? Do passengers have many rides? You know it. They have many rides, right? Cool. So let's check out this relationship. I'm almost done. Don't worry. So what do we have? That exists now, right? I'm going to do new. And what do they need? It needs what? Huh? Oh, yeah, that's right. Sorry, wrong one. Name, right? Who's this? Your boy. It's me. Aha. Cool. Right? So interesting. I called new here, right? And what did I show you right at the end? ID is nil. Why? Is this in my database?
No.
Why? How can I prove it? How do I know? Because the primary key doesn't exist, right? Every time I make a new row in my SQL database, new primary key generates, right? And then you remember I took that primary key and I mapped it to the ID of the object? Where I literally put at ID equals ID, then I put adder like reader ID. I just made it. If I put new, it did not save to the database. So let's do that. I can't call save on it. I have to put create. The right thing to do is if I were to put like p equals passenger.new, I can call p.save. And then that will do this. So create is actually new and save in one. All right. So far, so good. So I have a passenger, right? And can I call what? Passenger dot first is going to give me what? Your boy, that's right. And then what? What do I have? Do I have rides? Interesting. Why is my rides empty? Let's check all the rides. Yes. They have no IDs on them, right? So let's fix that. Right? What do we need? Driver ID. One. And then who else? Passenger ID. Reginald is my driver, so you know it's me. For sure. Right? So now we have a ride with both the driver and the passenger. So I could check the passenger, I could check my ride. And I'm right there. Reginald gave me a ride. Raise your hand if you understood that.
You do passenger.all.
Passenger.all, I can. Who has any questions so far? So all I did was I made a new passenger. I gave that passenger a driver ID of 1, which we know driver.find, remember this one? I can give it an ID, and it'll tell me who it is. It's Reginald. All right? I can also do driver.findBy. Where are all these methods coming from again? Active record. They're coming from active record. Because I didn't make any of these in the model. I just inherited from active record, and it gave me like 630 methods. Do you remember that? Sweet. So, sweet. All right, so driver.findBy. I want to find by the ID, and that ID is 1. Same thing.
Can you show me all the rides? Ride.all.
If you want to take a ride with me. All right.
Maybe if you have an ID.
Very good. That's that straight remix. So, what's going on here is I found the driver with the ID of 1. That driver object, ID is 1, name is Reginald, right? Here in my ride, ID 1, it's driver 1, which is Reginald, and then passenger ID is nil. Because I made these two before I made passenger and before I added the passenger column ID. Right? So it would make sense that these are nil. Do you remember when I made these? These were like before. Before we took that 5-minute break.
Did you go to the migrate?
The what?
The add passenger ID?
Cool, this one?
Yeah. Okay.
Right? So, all right. Raise your hand if you understood that. All of that so far. You don't have to like memorize it if it just made sense to you, right? So I'm gonna do it one more time. Ready? Start to finish. Driver.create, right? And I gotta give that what? A name? Oops. And who wants to drive? Who? Natasha? Wow. Brave soul. All right. Cool. Now you're a driver. You're driver number 3, right? Who wants to be a rider?
I guess me. Ron Dog.
Ron. Ron Dog. Very good. Nice. Ron Dog. Right?
Wow, you spell it the way I spell it too.
Wow.
We're cool.
Bet.
Got a word though.
Bet. All right, cool. Now, Natasha, do you want to give Ron Dog a ride? All right, you had no real choice. Thank you for saying that. Ride.create, right? And then what do I need to do? Who is the driver? Natasha. And what's your ID, Natasha? Cool. And then who's the passenger? Ron Dog?
Yeah.
Who's the ID? Cool. Bet. Right? I have to like make it practical because now it's going to make sense, right? If I check, right, passenger dot what? Find. What's your ID, Ron Dog?
Yeah. 2.
Come on, man. Cool.
Can't see.
Right? So it's Ron Dog. You're right. My bad. My bad. It's Ron Dog, right?
Yes.
Cool. Now I can find. Let me check. Yo, who are your rides? What are all your rides? It looks like this ride right here. You have 1 rides, right? And who's your driver?
Natasha.
Natasha, right? So if I wanted to, I could put driver.find with the ID of, right? Because that's where this one says it is, and I should be getting Natasha. Did that all like help clarify that cycle?
Yes.
Right, cool. Thank you, Ron Dog. Thank you, Natasha. You're lovely assistants. Very good. Nice. Now, what if I wanted a faster way to get through this? Right? If I wanted to go and find in my passenger, I wanted to be like, all right, listen, in my ride, who is the driver? Instead of having to do all this, right? Let me find out. In my passenger, right? I have what? What was the relationship between passenger and driver?
Driver has many passengers.
As many what? Passengers? Yeah? Yeah? Check. You have passengers have, I'm sorry. Whoa.
Drivers
Whoa, that was awful. Sorry. Passengers have many drivers, right?
Yes.
And what do we say? I'm sorry, that's wrong. It should have highlighted differently. Through rides. I think that's the way it is. Let's find out. All right, I actually don't really remember. What am I looking up? Active record, many to many. All right, that's what I meant. Oh, not ready. Why is my spelling so bad? All right, it's fine. It's close enough, right? We figured it out, right? All right. Let's look up through. Has many through. Cool, cool, cool. This is a good example. This is a good example. Yep. How do I write it, though? Come on, dog. All right, so has many physicians, comma, through, colon, appointments. Right? Like, you see how I just looked that up? I was like, all right. That looks about right. So let's test. Let's bang out of this. Let's do this. All right, now I can go passenger. All right, dot first. I can check passenger, dot first. I can check to see my drivers. And that's what I got right there. It was Reginald. But who was dot for what was your ID? Ron Dog? You sure it was 2? Don't let me down. 100%, right?
Sure.
All right. Just make sure, right? I can call the drivers on Ron Dog. I can get who? Drivers what? Drivers is going to give me what? 1 or many?
Many.
Drivers are going to give me 1 or many. Right? So this, I'll just take the first one in there. Right? And it's the actual object. And what's the name of that person? Tasha. All right, now let's finish it up one more time. Right? Drivers, right? Many to many, right? Has what? Come on now.
many passengers.
Yep. Through what?
Drivers.
Oh, yep, that looks about right. Right? So what this is actually doing is it's saying I have many passengers through the rides table. This will only work if I have a rides here. Like if this didn't exist, this will break. Check? Yes?
Yes.
All right, sweet, sorry. So it's gonna do this. All right, hey, driver, you got many passengers through rides. Let me check to see if you have rides. Cool. What is in rides? I'm gonna go into rides, and it's gonna say, oh, sorry. Passenger, many drivers through rides. I'm gonna go into rides. Then in rides, I'm gonna look for driver. And that's what it's gonna return me. If that didn't make sense, it should have made sense here when I did it with Ron Dog and Natasha. Right? I'm gonna go through, right? I'm going to find my passenger. I'm going to find the ride, right? I'm going to find the driver ID inside the ride, and then I'm going to find the driver with that ID, and it's going to give me back Natasha. So again, one more time. Passenger, tell me the drivers for this passenger. Going through rides, find the rides here, got the ride, looking for the driver. In the same way the code is, passenger, find, this is the passenger, through the rides table, give me the driver, find the driver, find, this is the driver object. I did the exact same thing, I just went into it, but I did it with the syntactical sugar. That is, without, are there any questions? No, that's all I got for you about associations, the has many, the many to many, and the belongs to.
Could
Alright.
we use this on our like code challenge? Because it seems like this is pretty fun.
Great question. Are there any more questions? No, you cannot use it for your code challenge. Any other questions? No, you're good. You're good. Yeah.